Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, meathead. But they're 3 puppies. They're 2 bulldogs and 1 Great Dane. Fuck. Well, you look older because of your beard. Okay. And you can trim your Elvis Presley hairdo a little. But Abdul, the guy that was very kind to me, he's naming a street after me, yada yada. I'm not trying to demean that, but he has Elvis. He's 50 something. He's got hair just like you, and he says that I've always had this hair since I'm 15, 16. God bless you, your hair doesn't fall out. Okay, but most Muslims won't allow their hair to turn gray. They will dye it black. I don't know if it's against their manhood or whatever the fuck, but they will, and the Chinese as well, will dye their hair rather than turn gray. Yeah.
I'm actually surprised sometimes when you share the knowledge of the Chinese. I'm just like,
because I've been dealing, the Chinese sovereign fund didn't ask me. Yeah. Yes, sir. Killed him?
the most satisfactory for you, whatever you did, brought you the biggest.
Okay. Well. Okay. The deal that brought me the most satisfaction that I didn't personally gain from was when I was acting for Siemens. Sally's going to sit there. Okay. We turned nothing into 11 or 12 billion. But that wasn't me. I didn't benefit from that, other than Klaus benefited from that because he was, the CEO. But the personal deal is when I turned nothing into 200 million in 2 seconds when we floated Great Western and I took an option. My wife's sitting there, yeah. And that was, zero into about 200 million. And when they hit the hammer down and we were public, it was pretty satisfying. It was satisfying not just because I make a lot of money. It was satisfying that I beat back the privatization of Maggie Thatcher in Jaguar. And they all said I was going to fail. Satisfying that the Kuwaiti, I talked them into backing me. And they backed me for almost 10 years straight. Not everything I came up with, but almost everything I came up with. The fact that it was the first sovereign fund that I didn't really understand what sovereign funds meant then. I didn't understand that once I got one, it was a big fucking deal. To me, it was just another sale. And then when I got the second sovereign fund, and more recently the Norwegian sovereign fund, I realized it's a big fucking deal. Because you can count on that many fingers that have got 3 sovereign funds as clients. I made a lot of money. I'm not disputing that. But when you turn nothing into, 200-300 million, of which you got 200 million, it's pretty special. And as Peter said, and he downplayed it because he's a low-key guy. It is pretty special, and he's used words like wonderful and terrific. But and I cry. I still cry when I think about it. To see him, the transformation, because I know what you kids are capable of. I know. I understand your capability more than you do, and it pisses me off. My wife's sitting there. It pisses me off that, that's good. I knew you'd make room for her. Yeah, I know you'd make room for her. Okay. That your parents, they didn't know what they didn't know. We did the best we can, but it's all horseshit. One of my favorite sayings to the kids is, if we were at war, we'd all be dead. Because the mistakes that you make are you wind up being dead. And of course now and this Ukraine thing seems to be heating up, which will be terrific for us. it's awful people would die, but it's going to be terrific. The UK just sent people there. The US just sent people there, amongst other countries.
What about your most revengeful deal?
Oh,
You took vengeance on
oh
someone.
no, no. Well, I mean, I don't give a fuck about Ukraine. But you mean me personally? Oh fuck. I wish that I could. I wish I could go back when I was. My wife's sitting there. Okay. I wish I could go back when I was about 11 or 12. A 15-year-old kid used to beat me up, and and I thought about the best way to take care of this is to hit him with a board or something. He was a lot bigger than me, and then he died. He turned 16. He got a driver's lesson and died, amongst a few other people. And then I thought bad. Well, fuck, you know. And then I thought, well, karma, a little bully shithead. And then, you know, at the funeral, it was hard for me to think that way. But he used to thump me like a fucking rented mule. And he, unfortunately, lived right next door. So every time I walked out, you know, not every time. And his family loved me. And they said he loved me. But he had bigger brothers and sisters who used to thump him. So I was the next closest, next door. He thumped me. But vengeance, you know, I would have liked to have done something to the federal government when they pulled the plug on the Haiti deal. When the Secretary of State and CIA said that they were more concerned about the collateral damage, because I would have been, you know, gotten my combat time in, and we had 240 guys, mercenaries. The head of our crew was a guy named Mike Williams. His last official job was the head of the Rhodesian cavalry. Rhodesia is now Zimbabwe, and he has a picture on Time magazine riding a horse with a baby, a black baby, on a bayonet. He was my head guy. And West Point graduate, yada, yada. And by the way, like in the Rambo movies, you cannot hold a .50 caliber in one hand like Sylvester Stallone said. You can't even hold a .30 caliber with one hand. But it looks good in the movie. If it's plastic, you can hold it in your hand. But that's was my image. But so I have resentment towards the federal government. I also have resentment towards the Vatican Bank that fucked me for practice. But I'd go in business with the Vatican Bank again. There's not many people who can say the Vatican Bank was your partner. You can look high and low. And of course, there's not many people that you can find that were in business with the 3 of the 4 top sovereign funds. But in today's generation, you know, I'm an overnight success. You know, now, older guys know what I've done. But most of the older guys don't want to do business with me, or I'd be a business partner of last resort because, you know, if I get fucked, I mean, you're going to wind up in, metaphorically speaking, you're going to wind up in a fucking ditch. Because I don't, if you tell me you're going to do something, you better fucking do it. Or you better wish to hell your relatives die before you do. Because I take serious shit. Because when I tell you, Sweet Pea, I'm going to do it, short of death, I'm going to do it. And that level of commitment doesn't exist anymore. It just doesn't. Rarely. You know, I am in that regard a Neanderthal. You know, because I do what I say. That was a long-winded answer to your question.
If you would do business with the Saudis now, what kind of business would it be?
Probably not.
Water?
No. I'm not interested in saving the world. I'm not interested in saving the water and all that shit because I believe with all my heart, because I know stuff that you don't know, it's going to be a scientific solution. They've been working on it 20, 25 years. Otherwise, why would Obama, who's a pretty bright guy, I don't like him, buy a house 100 feet off the water? He's only 50 years old. Why would you buy a house? You wouldn't, right? Why would you continue to build places on the east coast of Florida, on the beach? You wouldn't. But it's easy to rally around the flagpole like Greta does, But I mean, this whatever the fuck they called it in Glasgow a few months ago, it was a joke. Not just because China and India didn't participate. No, excuse me, China and Russia didn't participate. And the final vote, they decided we're going to try to reduce coal. The document is a joke. And more importantly, to me, nobody's focused on the fact that in 2015, the initiative, the $100 billion that was supposed to go to save all this shit, rich countries to poor countries, not one penny was put up. And the reason it wasn't put up because the poor countries, they know, not all, but almost all the money would be stolen. How come that's not on CNN? It's a joke. And these are the kind of things I'm going to talk about. I mean, I'm going to turn Westminster motherfucking upside down. And I'm going to talk just like I talk now. I'm not going to change anything. This is what got me to the rodeo, and I'm not going to change. I wish they still had duels. You know? Well, there's a lot of laws, unfortunately, that say you can't. But I mean, if I was 20 years younger, I'd get in an MM cage, with anybody. But I bring back duels. I do pistols because I'm almost a world-class shot, and I can knock the fucking ant off the top of the sweet pea's head at 30 feet. I mean, I'm a world-class shot. So they wouldn't want to do that. And I'm a good fencer, too. Not as good as my mentee, Alex. He's a world-class fencer. But, I mean, the way you settle this shit, let's get it on. When I was a kid, when you had a dispute with somebody, you stepped out in the parking lot, and whoever was standing at the end is the guy that won. Now, But anyway, I'm going to change politics. Any other questions?
Wait, what year? What year?
No, I'm not going to tell you anymore. But a long time before I met Sally. But I've been privileged of dating some of the best-looking chicks on the planet.
Give me the most famous ones that we all heard about.
No, I never got a hold of her, as they say in Texas.
Subservient mom, bro.
Yeah. No, but those are centuries ago. Unfortunately for you, you haven't fucked anybody.
Queen of the prom.
Well, Queen of the prom, Ask Sally. She said she doesn't want to go to my 60th reunion. I mean, some of those girls are dead now. If they ask me one more time, are you taking care of Dan? She says, I'm going to scratch your eyes out. But
Peña, what do you know about ET that we don't?
Pardon?
What do you know about ET, extraterrestrials, that we don't?
They're for real?
What?
Extraterrestrials are for real. There's a file that when you become president of the United States or prime minister, you get a file. Of course, it's digitized now, but that thick, dating back to the 30s and 40s. That's all. There's a lot of hype about it. Now they got TV shows. Yeah, but I mean, when an astronaut says it's 3 fucking guys floating outside his window, why would he say that? Well, maybe. But there's been a lot of people that say, I've never had that kind of experience. I have ghost experiences in the castle, though. I've had one. And so his wife went up in the tower and jumped and killed herself. 40, 50, 60, 70 days, years, not days. Later, a black nanny from Jamaica, they did the same thing to her, and she went up and jumped. Those were the first 2 ghosts. I've seen the black nanny here. I've seen the black nanny. Where's Geronimo? Geronimo, we've had guys that couldn't get out of bed because allegedly, both or one of those 2 women were sitting on them, or fucking them, or whatever. We've had people. We've had families. In the cemetery, for those of you that didn't go to the cemetery, that's off on the property, the tombstones are this big. Because they're little kids that they killed at birth. We've got 7 or 8 ghosts. And normally, now they're used to the seminars now, but when we first started having seminars, I mean, some of the guys were pretty upset, and some of the gals. Nobody's ever been hurt. And I don't really give a shit, you know. I want to fight with the devil, so I mean, I'm not going to be worried about some fucking ghost. But this is known, and we've been very prominent in the Scottish politics 400 or 500 years ago. This estate used to be like 200,000 hectares. And legend has it, that they had to give away all the land because they had 150 or 180 years of bad luck with ugly daughters. And the uglier the daughter, the more you got to give away in dowry. I don't know if that, but this is the last bit of the Guthrie estate. And the 156 acres. And we're one of the only estates, arguably, other than Glom's Castle, what the Queen owns. This is the only estate that's well manicured. I mean, and the only estate that the fucking ceiling's not falling in and the wallpaper's not falling off the fucking walls. Hectares. 2.2. 2.2. Pardon? Izenga. I couldn't think of his name. The guy that started Blockbusters. Correct. Okay, he and I shared the same lawyers in Florida. And when Wayne Huizenga, he died several years ago, they made him out to be a saint. The day his baseball team won the world championship back, yes, he sold them the next day because they're never going to be worth more. Now, I knew Wayne Huizenga when he was a collector for the mob in Cleveland. And his claim to fame was the head of the union wasn't paying the money, and so they were in a big parking lot, legend has it, 300 or 400 guys, and he went up and he hit with a giant wrench, hit the guy from the union in the head, put him down, then a vice wrench, put the vice wrench on the guy's nuts, and drug him 100 meters across the parking lot, screaming, yelling in pain, and then the union paid up, like magic. Like magic. He wasn't. His previous career, he wasn't a saint at all. I doubt they'll make me a saint when I die. But you ask people in Scotland, they talk about 30, 40 years ago, after electric cars, they're going to have cars that float on the air and shit. And I've asked 8 or 10 people, do you think we'll ever have super hover cars here in Scotland? In 1 million fucking years, no. In 100 million years, no. That's some English fucking conspiracy.
Not because of technology.
Well, no. Well, I mean, oil is we're going to stop using hydrocarbons when Prince Saud or King Saud says so. If the planet really knew how many reserves these other countries have, oil would go to $5. It'd go to $5 or less. I didn't guess negative oil by accident, even though I'm the only guy on the planet that did. I know, well, anyway, it doesn't matter how I know. Most of the big reserve countries, Venezuela, blah, 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 have infinitely more reserves than they say. And the only reason, in my opinion, the only reason they say what they say is because they control the price of oil. I mean, it's a joke. These kids don't know shit. But anyway, I've been asked to be on 6 panels about 2 things: global warming and hydrocarbon. Blah, blah. And when it gets down to the short strokes, I always get eliminated because the other guys on the panel don't want to talk. Because I'll eat their lunch. They don't know what they're fucking talking about. They write all these Nobel laureate papers. It's like the North and South Pole, which is my biggest pet peeve. There's been 11 expeditions to the North and South Pole. 10 are all dead. Sally and I are the 11th. That's it. And they're just talking shit. Just like these guys talk about how to create money. They've never talked, they never created any. If you were at the North and South Pole for 20 minutes and talk to 2 scientists each, you'd have to learn how to speak Russian in North Pole, but it's because of the Russian deal. You'd never mention that shit again. You'd never, just never. In theory, there's more hydrocarbons under the South Pole than in the entire planet. And that's why they're spending so much money on exploration. The entire motherfucking planet.